Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Happy Moment. My name is Dan, and I'm glad to have you with me today. Back again on my own, but I do have some news that makes me happy. I recently recorded an episode with a friend and fellow content creator. If you're looking for horror movie recommendations, you don't want to miss this. We'll be taking a look at each decade and talking about our favorites. Halloween happens to be on a Thursday this year, and that's the day I plan on releasing it, so very excited for that. Sticking with the current series, it's time for a look at the fourth Frankenstein movie, The Ghost of Frankenstein from 1942. Boris Karloff is done playing the monster, and he's been replaced by another horror icon, Lon Chaney Jr. We start off with angry, paranoid villagers, again bemoaning the fact that their village isn't as prosperous as it once was. They decide it's time to get rid of Frankenstein's castle once and for all and form a mob to go blow it up. They're greeted by Igor, played again by Bela Lugosi, who tries dropping rocks on their heads. He survived being shot in Son of Frankenstein and appears to be hobbling around more than the last time we saw him. We also learned that the sulfur pit, which was under the laboratory in the last movie, but has been relocated to being under the castle, and no mention of the lab is made. But the sulfur pit has hardened with Frankenstein's monster trapped inside. Well, thanks to the villagers and their dynamite, he's blown free from his captivity. As they flee the destruction of the castle, the monster purposefully gets struck by a lightning bolt to energize him. Igor says they'll go to see Ludwig Frankenstein, who is the second son of Henry Frankenstein, to make him even stronger. Henry being the brother of Wolf from Son of Frankenstein. We see Ludwig for the first time, played by Cedric Hardwicke, working with a couple fellow doctors on brain transplants. There's a Dr. Kettering and a Dr. Boehmer, played by Lionel Atwill, whom you may recall was the inspector with the mechanical arm in Son of Frankenstein. Ludwig mentions a past mistake that Dr. Boehmer made and makes him feel bad. Boehmer had once been Ludwig's teacher, but now works for him. Igor and the monster arrive in the village of Visaria, and it's immediately made clear that this must be some distance away from where they came, because they don't know about the monster. They come across a young woman who is wary but not scared of them, and she gives them directions. While Igor is talking to her, the monster wanders off. He finds a little girl being picked on by some bullies who kick her ball on top of a building. She asks the monster for help getting it, so he picks her up and begins marching up some stairs to reach the roof. Meanwhile, the villagers start to notice him. From their perspective, they see this giant carrying a girl and assume the worst. A couple of them try to stop him, and he swats them away, killing them. He grabs the ball and brings her back down to her father, but then he's jumped by the angry mob and thrown in jail. Igor pays a visit to the esteemed Ludwig and threatens to blackmail him by exposing the secrets of his father and telling everyone his family is responsible for creating the monster. Ludwig reluctantly agrees to help. We also meet Ludwig's daughter, Elsa, played by Evelyn Ankers, and her suitor, Eric, played by Ralph Bellamy. These two had previously joined Lon Chaney Jr. in The Wolfman, which was filmed in the previous year. So the trio probably wrapped up that movie and then jumped straight into this one. Just a reminder that in those days it was common for actors to be contracted to studios to appear in multiple movies. That's why you see so many of the same actors showing up in different roles. The monster is chained and being interrogated in court and has his first meeting with Ludwig. The monster hears Ludwig introduced as Dr. Frankenstein, and recognition crosses his face. But Ludwig declares he doesn't know who this is and knows nothing about him. This enrages the monster, who breaks free and is taken away in a carriage by Igor. Meanwhile, Elsa finds out her father has been reading the diaries of his father and brother and their experiments with the monster. I always think this next scene is cool when I see it. Igor and the monster break into Ludwig's home and Dr. Kettering is killed. The monster grabs Elsa and goes after Ludwig, but Ludwig shows his resourcefulness here. He gets behind a secure door and turns some dials from a wall control panel, causing the area outside the room to fill with soporific gas, knocking out Elsa, Igor, and eventually the monster, allowing him to restrain the two invaders. Ludwig declares to Dr. Boehmer the monster must be destroyed and wants to dissect it. Boehmer disagrees and says it would be murder. As Ludwig makes his plans, he's visited by the Ghost of Frankenstein. His father's ghost, as I'm assuming that's what it is due to the title of the movie, says the monster only turned out the way it did due to accidentally giving it a criminal brain. He convinces his son to get a new brain to make the monster better. Ludwig, now with Boehmer's assistance, decides to give the brain of Dr. Kettering to the monster to make him kind and knowledgeable. Igor tries to volunteer his own brain to escape his battered body, but Ludwig knows better and declines. Later on, Igor does, however, begin playing mind games with Dr. Boehmer and seems to be swaying Dr. Boehmer over to his side. The monster roams the village at night and finds the little girl who he helped earlier. He takes her from her room, accidentally spilling an oil lamp and setting the house on fire. The monster brings him back to Ludwig's house and indicates he wants the brain of the girl, but Ludwig carefully takes her away and gets her to safety. Now it's time for the operation. Ludwig is removing the monster's brain, while in another room, Boehmer is secretly carrying out his scheme with Igor and removing Igor's brain. I don't see this ending well. The little girl's father can't find his daughter, and an angry mob has gathered again. It's decided that Ludwig must be harboring the monster due to he works with mentally unstable patients. They storm to his house and are stopped by Eric, who convinces them to let him talk to Ludwig first. Ludwig, who doesn't know about Boehmer's treachery yet, takes Eric to see the monster. He talks to the monster, and the monster responds, in the voice of Igor. Ludwig goes after Boehmer, but the monster, who is now Igor, stops him. Outside, the mob has lost their patience and storms the building. Elsa reunites the little girl with her father while the mob swarms the house. Eric escapes from Igor, and Igor orders Boehmer to activate the gas to stop the mob. His evil plan is working, but then suddenly, he goes blind. Ludwig explains that the monster and Dr. Kettering had the same blood type, but Igor does not, so the blood can't support the sensory systems, and thus Igor is now blind. An enraged Igor kills Boehmer and then fumbles around blindly, running into things and causing the house to go up in flames from the various chemicals and electrical equipment he's destroying. The house collapses with Igor and Ludwig inside, and we end with Eric and Elsa walking away from the burning house and heading over a hill to walk off in the sunrise. This is my least favorite of the 4 Frankenstein movies, but still enjoyable, and I'd recommend checking it out. Lugosi is great again in his role as Igor, and Chaney is good in his role as the monster. If there's one thing you should take away from these movies, it's that the monster cannot be destroyed so easily. So yes, he will return, and we'll see some familiar faces again. Prepare yourselves, because I believe this next movie is the first time in movie history that 2 horror icons collide in a versus movie. I'm talking about Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. Until then, if you'd like to follow me anywhere, just search for a Happy Moment Podcast on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Twitter is kind of becoming increasingly more annoying, so I'm not sure how long I'll stick around, but I'm there for now. Until next time, take care, everybody.